today we are here hosting Manuka Wijesinghe, who has joined us to speak about how we read a bit from her latest fourth novel, like Moths to Flame. Manuka, who is probably more widely known among audiences as a novelist, but who is also a poet, an actress, a dancer, and a practitioner of alternative lyricism. She is the author of Silhouettes of Justice, a collection of poetry published in 1994, Monsoons and Potholes, published in 2006, which went into a loose trilogy of sorts, followed up by Perera in 2009 and Signal Only in 2014. Manuka is also the recipient of several awards and also a Sri Lankan writer who has been quite widely quoted in academic literature, including research. And probably Manuka is a writer whose corpus of work has been represented at so many different levels in critical literature, including for its relevance in post-colonialism or post-colonial discourse, in nationalism and nation building, in territories of mythology, how it plays out on the modern nation, and also as Isabella Alonso Brito's article in 2011 suggests, good habits of South Asian and Sri Lankan interests. So, wide range covered by Manuka, who is joining us to share from her latest work. So, Manuka, thank you for coming down from Australia and we from Colombo. In many ways, as I mentioned, Monsoons and Potholes, Perera and Signal Only, they read as a trilogy in a sense. Now, like Moths to Flame, in many ways, it departs from that territory, but also in other ways it does. Right? Shall we start there? How this project came about and how it connects with your earlier work.
Okay, can you hear me? All right, thank you for inviting me. I'm quite honored that I'm here. And it's like this, after I finished writing the trilogy, I had lots of questions, We had experiences for, 26 years of absolute devastation, destruction of minority communities. And I want to understand actually what happened. Why is it that children were willing to sacrifice their lives, for whatever dream they had? Why was it that, especially the Asians, we have a sense of duty, we have a certain dharma, which is embodied in our birth, when parents die, we have to bury them, we want to work for them. It's a complete process. Our children have to do the same. We are ingrained, we are not like a Western child, we are Asians. We have this embedded sense of duty. Why is it? Why were we willing to sacrifice? Why were children willing to sacrifice? I couldn't quite understand that. I had to find the reason why they did it. What was the reason? What pushed them? What motivated them? Because at the end of the day, they died. They were willing to die. They killed. Everything was there. But then at the end of the day, they were just children. Most of them happened to be my generation as well. But we escaped because we were living in Colombo, so we did not really affected that way. And so to understand that, I thought I should start writing about, starting planning this phenomenon as to what happened. And I want to find somebody who could be guilty, somebody has to be guilty. Within the family context, let's say the mother, the father, the grandparent, or something like that. I want to find who is guilty that children died. Just a fundamental question. So then to do that, I spent a lot of time in the north, in the east. I didn't study Tamil, like the songs, poetry, or as much as I could, in the few years I was working on this. And trying to find somebody who was guilty, who led these kids astray. And I couldn't really find anybody, in the sense that, yes, parents might have contributed to this by telling a child, you have to study, you have to become something, but the system could not integrate this child who has studied, because Sinhala would have taken the rug from under their feet. So, lots of people might be responsible for making the mistakes that they did, but they did that thinking that what they were doing was right. So you can't call somebody or blame somebody for making a decision or giving the wrong advice, because they live in a spirit of their own times, but not the spirit of current times, And the only guilty party, I really truly guilty party, who really ought to be blamed for this, is the state. The state knew what it was doing. It knew it very early what it was doing. And it planned what was to come. It planned for the war. It planned for the elimination of the family. It planned everything. It was not accident. It was not coincidental, And so, I created a story out of this. And I also do believe on this island, the beauty of this island is the different people coming in here, staying here. I grew up in a community, or even in Colombo, where different faiths kind of mix with each other. We share each other's gods, we share each other's festivals, we share, we could laugh about it, faith was an entertainment. Ethnicity was, it gave more color. It was not something we hated. We kind of loved it, growing up. This kind of difference. So this island has been enriched by all the different streams of people coming in here and then staying here. And I couldn't understand why we were going on about this Buddhist ideology and idealism and things like that. Because for me, beauty is something subjective. For me, the beauty was actually the mix of everything. Whether it's an Islamic faith or the Hindu faith, or whether it's a faith in Hora, whoever it is, or the process. That was the beauty of this island. And I love religions. I love all religions, And so, that was one reason I want to write a book, and I want to include all the strands, all the ethnicities, all the faiths in this book. So as a result, I incorporated this story, Muslims, Tamils, from the north, from the east, Jesuit priests, lots of people who created this, this diverse island in which we live, right? But then the final reason as to why I wrote this book was, I realized after 26 years of war, everything was gone. Even hope had been killed. Yes, people were, celebrating and writing crackers when people were killed in the east, in the north, and as the war was ending in 2009. And we should have had somebody in the nature of a Gandhi or somebody like that, I don't know, who could have helped us to heal our wounds. Yes, something has happened, it was wrong, but that we could come together, trying to make a better society, a better country, better citizenry. But the Rajapaksas prevented us from doing that. They made the wound even deeper. They made everything ugly and absolutely perverse. Buddhism became like a goddess spectacle, it became like a carnival kind of thing. I'm a Buddhist, and I feel I have the right to defend my faith, because that's what they exhibit as my faith is not mine. It's a caricature, it's a comedy, it's a farce, So then I realized we have to get together on a higher level, above politics, above these different, different men and women who are trying to control the people with their lives, So I needed something transcendental, and I wanted something of God, So I wrote this book basically thinking about us coming together in something greater, something more transcendental, something divine, something connected to God, because only God and beauty uh, is very similar, I mean, the beautiful is born kind of thing. But of course, as a Buddhist, I didn't have, that divine principle within me. So I spent a lot of time with the Sufis during that time, and kind of went along in trying to understand. And because of that, I brought it as in this book as a main character, a Sufi. And he is about to bring all these different people who have been fighting with each other within that divine principle. I mean, like I said, I write these books hoping somebody will read them, and out of them will become a better person. I mean, that's the only reason I write them, It happens with one person, I think I've done something. Did I answer your question?
Very much. I think you bring us to the pitch of things. But I think I would like to go along with this, because as you said, you are trying to break new grounds in terms of how to localize the modern nation, so to speak. But also, in order to do that, you go away from the territory which was familiar to you. Because if you look at the monsoons, Theravada and Sinhala only, it covers about the personal and natural history of about 8 decades, but based in the south, based in Colombo, based in familiar territory. And here you are venturing into not only culture, but also in terms of geography, the far reaches of the east and the north. Now to bring that into the narrative, what kind of experiments did you have to undertake? How difficult was it? How challenging was it?
I would say, I mean, this is, I'm an actress, I come from the stage, I come from the theatre. So because of that, it's very easy for me to flow into somebody else's character. I mean, I think, in my books, what I would consider the only strength are the characters. I can write dialogue because of my experience in theatre. So for me to ask the question, your question, it was, let's put it this way, very often I became those people. And but that more than that, I had somewhere around, but I can't remember who told me this, about the Tamil Sangam, the Sangam poetry, about these poems of, these are from South India. Sangam poetry is, you have the Aham that is war poetry and about love poetry. And these poems are separated in different landscapes. You have the kind of poetry which comes from the hillside, then from the lagoon area, from the forest, from the deserts and kind of thing. And even the way one experiences love in these landscapes are different. For example, the Marudam, which is like in a lagoon area, love is like, they say, it's like a beak of a kingfisher going and, getting into the body of a fish kind of thing. It's a piercing kind of love. Whereas in the desert, the love was something, the desert people get lost and they go away, they die. So love is like, more of like like an emptiness kind of thing, something which has gone away. So I want to bring these elements of love, because when I mention the thing about God and beauty and religion, I think love is very important as well, because we don't love each other. We don't know what love is. I mean, when I got Theravada man translated to Sinhalese, and there was this one question, something about love, did this happen because of love? And my Sinhala translator made love into a Valkama, and there was something wrong in us. We didn't know what love was, If somebody falls in love, that is a Valkama, And in this book, I have tried to break all these things which we have been indoctrinated with. Let's say an old man looking at a young girl. I mean, automatically, that man is considered vulgar, he's vulgar. I mean, why is he vulgar? I mean, doesn't he have a right to appreciate the beauty of the young, Why do we have to think that he's into pornography or something? I mean, that is because of our perverse kind of mind, So in this book, I try to understand and think all these people. And again, because I'm an actress, because I come from a drama, it was easy for me to feel as they felt it. And for me in this book, the person who broke my heart, actually, I cried when I was writing it, is this, the young boy, the terrorist father. Because he did, because he says this thing, where he says, I gave everything to this nation, because he was a government servant, he did everything for the singular nation. they insulted him, though he spoke excellent Sinhalese, they made him do a Sinhala exam, which he used to do out of pride. He didn't want, he's done everything. He said, I gave everything to my nation, and he was my son. So it broke my heart because that's what the Tamils have been doing. They gave everything to this nation, in the civil service or whatever it was. And we took away their children. And I think it was absolutely wrong because we've been living together always one night and so. Maybe I'm grappling too much, but like I said, I think it's my drama that helped me create these characters. I felt what they felt. It was sometimes very difficult for me to get out of these worlds. Sometimes I should go to phases where I was like quite strange, not very happy or, unlike my usual self. And I had to sit and wonder, am I myself or am I still that character? And this happened to me very often while writing this book, because this book itself, unlike the other books, I knew those characters personally. This one, I didn't know them, I had to create them. So sometimes, I think I lived, they lived in me. They lived in me, yeah.
Alright, so the reading is organized in a way where conversation is interspersed with a bit of reading by Manuka. So Manuka, we can break into reading. We can give some context in case there are people still not familiar with it.
What I also want to say is I wanted this book to be a very gentle book. It's not supposed to be a harsh book. Yes, I write about as to why children become terrorists, why they kill, why they do what they do. But I didn't want it to be ugly. And that is why, I have, used this title like Moths of Flames, right? Because the title comes from the Sufi who calls himself, says, I'm a moth flying in the flame of God. And I use this same concept for the freedom fighters, who are fighting for Islam, as they were also moths flying to the flame of Islam. So, what they did, they felt they had to do it to save the dignity and the respect of their parents. So they, we can sit where we sit and fault them or blame them for what they did, for the killing and the war and the blood and all of that stuff. But I want that we understand why they did, because we have to heal these wounds, and politics does not help to heal the wounds, it just makes matters worse. And so I'm just going to read a little bit from, let me just like this, but it's quite hard to read, what to where to start, But okay, this is the first part. My main character is actually a young girl called Mariamma, and she's actually the daughter of a Sufi. And there's a little story around it. He's a Sufi and he meets a Tamil girl who's born with a lot of malefic astrological chart, which is quite malefic, and she's been intrigued by the family. It happens sometimes. And she tries to run away from home, and she meets this Sufi, and he gives her all the love that he can give. And they have a child, And they work he's the one who teaches the child all this the Sangam poetry because he's a poet. He's somebody who goes to the mosque during Ramadan and sings and wants God to come and things like that. So I start the book actually between a dialogue between father and daughter, because also one more thing which I forgot to mention is that I started writing this book when my father was dying. So he was on his last journey. The last journey I saw, his senses flicking off like the stars in the sky, turning the lights off kind of thing. So I started writing this book during the time he began to die, which, took a few months kind of thing, or maybe a little bit longer. So I started the book with this dialogue between father and daughter, and my father is a very rational person, very Aristotelian. And because his faculties are failing, he couldn't read anymore, he couldn't think. So I was trying to make him appreciate the greenness of the trees or the smell of the flowers, the senses. And I should bring him outside and say, just see how beautiful it is. So because of that, I think these dialogues kind of, express what I was going through at that time with my father, right? And in the dialogue, it's more like the father teaches the daughter but I was trying to teach my father, who died at the age of 9 subsequently. Yeah. This is Mariamma asking the father, Baba, tell me of the place from which you came, Baba. Mariamma asked her father. She was on his lap, being tickled by his long beard. I came from the Marudan, called Marudabune, by the Mattakulam Madinarum. Where is that? It's in the islands east. Tell me more. Her thirst for knowing him was unquenchable. It's a strip of land between the lagoon and the sea. From the one, the Nedar side, the wind howls, while from the other, the Marudan town side, coconut and palmyra palms dance the Portuguese bailadan to the bird of calypso music, and the lagoons singing fish. Fish sing where you come from, Akka? Indeed, he replied. And burgers, who are they? They are Portuguese seamen who jumped ship and swam ashore to love the East beautiful Mukawagas. And they dance too. When I left them, they were still dancing. How did they dance, Appa? He tucked his sarong, bent his knees, pulled his elbows, and showed her the dance that was known as a pilot dance. He had never taken earlier, but the sights and sounds were painted in her mind like the fragrance of the rose oil he had brought to her. When you may not see me, Mariamma, keep a rose to this bottle, and I will be with you. He had told her when he gave it to her. Okay, what I want to say is, I think in this book I have not dealt with Colombo, but I have written about the north, the east, and the highlands. And this Baba, this Sufi, he comes from the east coast, into the Latin side. And he started living in Jaffna, and there he was raised with his child. But he doesn't really go back, so he tells his child about everything from his area where he comes from. And so that's that part. And what to say? I just one more little reading, is it okay? Okay, I also work a lot with dialogues, and I have brought in most of Lanka's gods in here. I use the word Lanka because I don't like that Sri part of it. I like Lanka. I find it's far more poetic. So I have brought into this book many of Lanka's gods because we have lots of them. And I like using. I like when people pray. I try to pray myself, but like I said, the divine aspect is not within my scribble. I will learn to say. So this is my Parvati Amma is actually Mariamma's father and the Baba's wife, and she is a woman from Jaffna who married a Muslim who actually really loved her, but what happens to most people is that after a while, your past catches up with you. So she started considering, he was lonely, he was a low class, all that kind of stuff. So even though he gave her a lot of love and gave her everything that she could possibly want to make her happy, she was not happy. But that unhappiness had nothing to do with him, but it was within her soul. It was the impurities that she had brought with her into a marriage, which caught up subsequently. And she didn't like the way he was raising his daughter because she wanted to try to block the family culture. But he gave her more of that Islamic aspect, that way. So Mariam always praised the gods, putting her earlobes and performing the ritual prayers, Parvati Amma also reprimanded God. Where were you to remove my obstacles when I was young? You know where to be seen. You crept away on your mouse, leave me at the mercy of those Navaja gods. Look at what happened. Like Sivan not burning your head and then putting you on an elephant head, my head too. But that very same Lord was directed to a lonely Mukuwa. There were you, great remover of obstacles. Why do you not remove my obstacles? But even she could not be angry with him for too long. Everybody loved the Lord Julia. I know you will tell me that the Mukuwa did not fix you in the astrological charts. But you are the conqueror of obstacles, are you not? You should have gone at them with your tongue. Do you not know how often I was soaked in cold water by those vile black pills? It was not obstacles they removed from my life, but the chills they put in. She pulled her earlobes hard and pale. The pilgrim may not have removed the obstacles, but they had shifted them. He had set her kind imprisonment. She was aware of his birth, but she shared that knowledge only with God. Still, could you not have done better, Pilgrim? I know they took the snake vase of them, cut him into rather paper planets and placed them in the astrological chart, when they should have taken you into their astrological family. But those Navagraha lords are like the Kamilas. They are jealous gods. You are fortunate not like them, and you are lucky they did not take you, or they may have cut you up to. Imagine your baby in one house and your head in the other. She prayed and she chatted. Her Kamilas, the gods were their children, and of all their children, they loved the people they are the most.
So at this point, I would like to take a couple of questions from the house, but before that, a few clarifications I want to make. One thing is, when you read the book, it comes across as if you are deliberately trying to subvert, deliberately trying to undermine some set notions about identity and culture. For example, you use certain terms instead of others. Is it a conscious motion which you start off, or is the project built on yourself?
Yeah, it's I work with sounds. Like I said, these people are talking to me. So I hear the way they talk, and I do not use the word Tamil, because it's very unprecise. If I try to use the word Tamil, I can't get that correct now. It's an unprecise version. So I mean, that was one of the big fights I had in Vihanga as well. He wanted me to use the word Kandy and use the Western say, I can't do that. Because when I wrote these were sounds, I thought that was a little bit, those were the Kamila or the Muslim one, the things like that. And so I think I did that. Maybe nobody else will connect that, but I did that for myself. Because if I saw this, finish this book, and they had made everything into Tamil, it's no longer my book. It's just the sounds I did. I work a lot with sounds. Sometimes I hear, even when I wrote Theravada Man, they spoke to me in Sinhala as the characters. I wrote it in English. But this English is not maybe Jane Austen or Charles Dickens's kind of English. This is, my creation. So I did the same thing with this. Perhaps it doesn't make much sense, but to me it makes sense. And I, think that because I'm the writer, I should relate to it.
And also about narrative, because one thing that is immediately noticeable is in contrast to some of the earlier work, the style of narration has so much innovation. For example, the use of dialogue, as you pointed out. But also a lot of the dialogue goes in a categoristic form, question and answer. So Mariamma poses a question and then the answer comes from the bar, which explains a lot of culture to the reader. What kind of other narrative innovations have you brought into the book? Differs from your earlier style.
From my earlier style, I would say this book was actually the hardest to write, because I had to. This Baba character was not easy for me, because it was something to use a lot like the flame of God. I mean, I've done a lot of things in my life, but that is not something I have done. So I didn't understand the flame, so I had to. I think I created the thing through Mariamma's questions. So it was those questions that created that person kind of thing. So I'd rather the other way around, And I think, like I said, I spent many times, lots of time with the Sufis, in the East, on the Thais, after and all that. And I think, I used to ask them lots of questions like this. And it's not from one Sufi, it's from many of them, that is the character of Baba. I think these are the stories they gave. I remember one of them was, the part the Baba sitting in the swing. That was one in the East, he was sitting in the swing while talking to me. So, And for me, it was again very different because I'm a very rational person. Most of my writing comes out of thinking rather than from the heart but from the mind. And this is the first book I didn't write from the mind but from the heart. So maybe that is what caused the difference. I mean, if it makes any sense.
All right, we can take a few throwbacks from the audience. We are doubling in limited resources, but I will pass the mic if there are people with questions to ask at this point. At the absence of which, we can go to another reading.
Yes, okay, all right. So the book is divided into different of this southern landscape. And the part I'm going to read now is about the meeting between the Baba and a tiny man who later subsequently becomes Margamma's husband. But he's actually Baba's friend, and how they met on a mountain top. And again, I wrote this after being in that region, in the Keshnagara, on that 18th thing, And I was with a friend, and I like the way these mountains, but they reminded me of a woman kind of thing. So I thought, I thought bring this into a book, and I soon after I was writing this, and I brought that picture which I saw in this it's in the The Baba and he live on the mountain top. Devpure had been traveling, measuring the waters in Ceylon's rivers. One day, he had to measure a river on the other side of the high mountains. He had climbed it, but before reaching the other side, darkness had fallen. In an abandoned hut on that mountain, he had been unrolling his mat when his buttock struck a form similar to his own. Is it a wild beast that obstructs me from lying on my lap? The form asked. The language was Tamil, spoken with a Muslim accent. I'm a Tamila from Jharkhand, he replied. Then there is no wildness, the voice had said. And you? Then they asked. I am a moth, flying to explain. The moth struck a match, and Devpure had seen its old, robed, sparkling, laughing, human, all to human face. As they cemented friendship, a last ray of the evening sun slipped between the twin peaks of the Vihanga rock, majestically heaved before them. That is God, the monk said, resting in his beloved's breast. In silence, they observed the last ray slip into his great, comforting crevice. Next morning, they parted. Will we meet again? Devpure asked him. If God wills. If we meet again, what shall I call you? Baba. Is that your name? No. Then why call you that? Since the Baba is a moth, like the flames. If we meet again, I hope you will be unsinged. If God wills. Where will you go now? Where light is. And so they had parted. The moth to the one side of the mountain, and a Tamila to the other. The one to measure the water, and the other to burn in fire.
So as you said earlier, this is a book written more from the heart than the mind. But then this also, like the monsoon spirituality, brings in a lot of history that plays with the personal histories of these characters. So I mean, not to kill the suspense, but when you go through the novel, among actual historical figures you come across, we have people like Bandana, after the first time in Manuka Wijesinghe, but also people like Bertrand Russell, or at least a character based on whom we can think is Bertrand Russell. How do you play history into these personal narratives? What is your thinking process like when you bring actual known public history into these personal lives of characters that spring from your work in this? How does that work?
Vihanga, I think, my biggest problem is I have never ever studied anything to read writing. I've never really studied literature or anything like that. I'm a dancer and I do yoga. So I think when I write, there's a meditative process happening there. I think things just flow. I don't plan it, it just happens, Like, for example, the part, I will read that part about Bandar. Of course, again, these are stories I have heard as well. I heard this story, a common friend of ours, Para, who passed away recently. And he was telling me that when Bandar brought in the singer, when he brought in the singer only during the elections, he had been at some estate of a friend of his. And this friend had asked him, Banda, why are you doing this? Why are you bringing Sinhala only? What good is it going to serve? And so he had been sitting on an armchair overlooking the mountains and into the village beyond, and he has pointed his hands and he said, look at those brothers over there. If they learn English, what's going to happen to your children and mine? So that is the reason he brought Sinhala. Not to give them the advantage, but to give his people the advantage and give them a disadvantage. So these are stories I've heard, and I want to bring them into the book, so people know that these people have not done these things accident, there was a plan always, like an elitist, preservation of power kind of thing. Yes, abundantly, he will find it was disobedient, but there was a certain agenda behind it. So Now I can't bring Banda into Japan, I can't bring him to the East Coast, I can't bring him in contact with the Baba. So I created a landscape on it's a tea estate actually. And there was a Tamil girl working there for the lecture, she was working the mistress, was a Scottish woman. And she's actually, I created her as the voice of reason, or the one of intellectual capacity who can connect everything. And again, this character, I have met her. She's a girl who looked up my father, that's when she died. And I was amazed at how perceptive and how intelligent she was, she's gone to school only after like maybe like this, till 8 years or something, like not beyond that. But she had so much intelligence, so much perception, she understood so much. And I realized, my God, here we are insulting these people, they are coolies, we don't even give them, rights of citizenship. And they have far more to offer where the mind is concerned than we, who have gone through the entire proper education system and our intellect is completely destroyed. So I brought that character in and I kind of weaved her into this little story between, where she, how she became what she did in the estate, in the latter days of colonialism, with a superior marrying a foreign lady who was a friend of Bertrand Russell's. So, so that's I can read a bit of that if you want, if it's interested. The Bandapa. And of course, there I bring in all the characters, even from Jaffna, the big politicians who visit these people on the estate and then talk, about the political things what they have, why they want disenfranchised families and all that type of stuff. So that is where the political conversations take place in a living room or a dining room. So here, she's a young girl, she's a little girl and she became like the handmaid of the mistress. Her name is Saraswati, but they all call her Lakshmi. Her first sight of Banda had been one of distrust. He was not a gentleman who liked fiddling with the servants when they were debauched. But his small, respectable face reminded her of a mongoose. Under normal circumstances, she may not even have seen him. But that day, Poti and the butler had been taken ill, and she had been called to the library. It was the first time she had been there, and its darkness disconcerted her, and she was suspicious of the master's dog Rover. But it was not Rover upon whom her eyes fell. It was the master's Banda friend. She distrusted him even more than Rover. Master had not seen her enter. It was a heated discussion, so she had kept a safe distance until the discussion was over. Banda, for God's sake, why on earth? What will you achieve if you go ahead with a ridiculous plan to make Sinhala the official language? We? None. The master's Banda friend had said calmly. Then why, old chap? He had said rather jovially. That's the only means to win the election. The master looked angered. No wonder. You cannot be such an opportunist. His banda friend had laughed. I'm a Mudaliya's son. What do you expect of me? You have a moral duty, Banda. Old chap, Banda had said. Democracy has no moral duties. The best man wins. And who is the best man? I, he had said with great pride. Then you have an obligation to do the right thing. I am. I'm giving the people the shit they demand. You call it shit. What do you think Sinhalese is? You think those monks and those vernacular teacher chaps have a clue to government, leave alone what is right for them in the modern world? Then why are you promising it, Panda? Saraswati heard exasperation in the master's voice. That is democracy, old chap, he had said and laughed loud. The master had been rendered speechless. So his bundle friend had spoken, exhilarated by the sound of his own voice. I have another reason, Hubert, and a far greater one. And what is that? Banda had then looked towards her, pointed his finger at her, and said, if coolies and natives like this abysmal creature learn English, what shall be the plight of your children and mine? This way, they shall sink in the bog of mother tongue, while our children shall hold the reins of elitism and governance, beyond the pain of colonialism, through independence. Amen.
All right, so at this point of the conversation, I think we can safely put like Moths to play aside, but probably get down to your writing in general, to cover your career, your work as a writer over the years. So maybe a couple of questions from me. After that, we can open out a little wider. Now, Manuka, looking back at the writing you have done, it's pretty much entrenched in a lot of history and what has been happening in Sri Lanka, at least over the last 100 years. Now, when these stories were first framed, how did it happen? Did monsoons and potholes come first and you finish it and go to the next book? Or are there like strands all over your working desk from which you pick from time to time and patch these novels together? How does it work?
No, I didn't patch anything. It started with monsoons and potholes actually. The reason was I was never actually really, well yes, I did write poetry as a young girl, and most people told me, write something that people understand. And I started writing plays, but that again was complicated. I had to get actors and get money for funding for drama. It was, I like working alone, and then I gave birth to a couple of children, and I was just so utterly bored. And I realized, it was just, I couldn't be creative anymore, like life was like this, kind of mundane shows. And I read, I think, one of Amy Tan's books, and she said, if you can't, what was it that she said? If you can't change your destiny, you have to change your attitude towards your destiny. And I knew I couldn't change my destiny. I have a responsibility, I'm a very responsible person, I couldn't, like the kids and give them to my mother or something. I had to take a responsibility. But I had to change attitude towards my destiny. I realized the only way I could do that was if I became creative. And I started writing. So when my son was like, I think, God must have been a few months old, I used to get a girl who used to come and talk to him. And I spent these 2 hours just writing and writing and writing. And the result of this was monsoons, actually. Of course, but what came on subsequently was a part of this humongous thing. But that was monsoon. So it was actually a comparatively easy book to write. It was difficult in the sense that I had to discipline myself. And again, I must, in all good faith, thank Sam and Amina, Sanford and Amina Hussain, because I was introduced to them by a friend who said, she's writing a book. He said, well, send me the manuscript. I mean, it was not a manuscript, it was like tissue paper kind of thing, And he said, no, send the first 10 chapters or something. So I had to get this thing together and send it to him. And he said, okay, I want to publish it. So that's how that, it became Monsoons and Potholes. So that book, if you look back, it was quite easy because I was writing about my life, what I experienced. And even, my attitude towards the people of this country growing up in Colombo, going into ladies' college, this very elitist kind of thing, I mean, the JP people like a bunch of monkeys kind of thing. This is what I was told, this is what I really believed, I didn't know anything else. So it's after I wrote this, and I did a lot of criticism, about my elitist attitude towards things. Okay, God, start rethinking about what you believe. So that was like a door that opened for me to see further, understand other people, where they come from, who they are, not having the privileged lives that we have had, So I think it kind of opened my soul to a certain extent. And then, of course, Monsoons took about 8 years for me to complete. It was a long book, it took many years. And I was not really quite interested in writing afterwards. But then, then it becomes addictive after a while, Then I realized again, I work as well, I work with patients, and oh my God, I listen to their ramblings, and it's the same, kind of thing. And I need to transcend, and writing is transcendental. It's almost meditative kind of thing. So then I started writing Theravada Man, and again I wrote Theravada Man for a certain purpose, because I realized the Buddhism that we have here, the figure of Buddha is somebody who has been extracted from the Vedic tradition and planted on this island. We have no idea about the history. We have no idea about the Vedas and Upanishads, or how Buddha came to be. And here we are kind of bloated, with our self-importance. We are the preservers of Buddhism, which is a load of crap, So I wrote this book. I write for a Sri Lankan audience. I'm not interested in foreign audiences. I've never tried to get my books published elsewhere. I write for us. When they read it or not, I don't really care. I've done my duty. So maybe it's a sense of duty I have.
Yeah, perhaps in a sense, the first book is easy to write because it's like you're pretty much under what is out there. Is it the same for you? The sense of an audience, the sense of a critique, the sense of someone reading it out there, does it make the writing process different moving forward from the first book, or how does it work?
No, actually, I don't think of the reader at all when I write. I don't. Let's say I write it for myself. I'm hoping that, yes, there are readers out there, but, I don't have faces or anything like that. I don't have a target audience or anything like that. And so it's just me and myself, more or less. And of course, my characters. I live with these characters. You have to understand, I live with these people I have created for 5 or 6 years. Ending a book is the most awful thing that can happen. All my friends are gone. And even when I wrote Theravada Man, that has 3 prominent characters. One is that is Kora Mahatma, Theravada Buddhist, and I have an astrologer who embodies the grace of Dharma. He knows astrology, all the type of stuff. Then I have the element of a woman there, and of course an animist, who's a simple person but very devoted kind of person. So, they were around me, they were with me, they were talking to me for about 5 6 years, and when a book is over, it's a quite a depressing moment actually when a book ends. So, and then something else happens, 5 years you've been with these people, and suddenly you're out in the world outside, and you don't even know what to say anymore. It's like you've lost your speech and things like that. And, but I don't really think of an audience. Yes, I want to write to a Lankan audience, because what I have found in this country is that even in a Sinhala press, what they translate is that what fits into the Sinhala Buddhist narrative in this country. They don't want to translate anything else into Sinhala. People might start thinking out of the box. So this is something, because I hang around a lot with, whether it's a Golagate bookstores or some of the I deal with these people, and I see the kind of work they translate. They do not translate anything. They are, the majority of the people, the Sinhala speaking community might think something beyond what the Sinhala Buddhist establishment wants you to have, the bureaucracy. And when I was doing Theravada Man, I found a lot of, I was traveling around a lot looking at old Naga statues and all that, and then people, the villagers came and said that these things are far older than the date the archaeology department puts there. Because archaeology department has the interest of making sure that nothing is predated. It has to fit according to the narrative of, Vijaya coming to this country or what it is, Archaeology department, higher education. They are doing that all the time. And they've been doing extremely badly after the war ended. They've been going to when I went to Ampara soon after the war, they came to me with some hotel, came to me with some a brochure, where I can go on tours, And I said, it was quite crazy, there was a war there, and all of a sudden they're discovering things which have been buried, which the war had not destroyed. There's a lot of rubbish. So the archaeology department, instead of higher education, they are all playing this island, this single Buddhist island thing, and that is a tragedy because the people who are losing out of that, who are becoming like getting a tunnel vision, is not you and I who speak English, but it's a majority, and that's what they want. And these children are like us; they have a curiosity as well. They want to know as well. My father is from the village, he's from India. When I go there, I talk to them quite a bit, and they say, "Happy, happy." We don't know the language, we look at television, we only learn from them, we have no other access. So tell us what you're... So they have the desire. We are not radical, singular Buddhist chauvinists. We are not. It's just that we are not given the other side. So people are incapable of thinking, If somebody just throw something to them, they are nice people, But the government has been exploiting the masses, which actually, like I said in this book, because the singular was given to them not because we can love them, because they didn't even care about them. That's in the story. They don't care about them. And what I also do believe is that, 1971, with the insurgency, the single educated youth were, either imprisoned or killed, a kind of thing, And then with the open economy, they had to make sure that the rural population doesn't go berserk, They brought most of them into the army. So, this is the excess which the government doesn't want to deal with. They don't want to give them jobs, they don't want to give them employment, they don't want to give them property. So, government has always, it's like a family operation, No matter who comes for it's a family operation. I think I spoke like strange things beyond the question. I'm sorry about that.
It works. So I think the rain subsiding is a sign that we are in this conversation. But before that, we can definitely have time for input, even contestations, I don't know, from the house. We can pass the mic. We can talk about writing in general. It doesn't have to be like Moths to a Flame. It can be Manuka's previous book. It can even be writing in general.
So, I've got a question. If you want to ask the question, yes. Can everyone hear? Okay. So now, we write in English, right?
Yes, I do.
And this was Sri Lankan audience. So, how important do you think it is as a writer to be conscious of writing in English for a Sri Lankan audience?
Let me answer that. Most of my books are translated to Sinhala as well. So I write in English because even when I hear voice in Sinhala, I write in English because my Sinhalese, yes, I've done my O-levels in Sinhalese, but I don't write with Sinhalese, so I can only write in English. But I always work very close with translators, and they know exactly how I want the language communicated. For example, I don't want this overt Sanskritization. I've written a lot about that in my book Sinhala only, where they Sanskritize the Sinhala language, that it has become accessible for the layman. Not accessible because it's become like it's like become a perversion, So I want like this in simple Sinhala. So when I work with, when I get the translations done, I work very close to the person who translates, and we discuss what happening. So I want to write for a Sinhala audience. Unfortunately, I can't write in Sinhala.
No, my question is not why you don't write in Sinhalese. That's not the question. So, writing in English for a Sri Lankan audience, English is a white language.
Yeah.
Something because some would say it was a traitor's language.
Yes.
So many opinions to it. So when you approach the English language, are you conscious of why you approach it in English language, or do you just it as a first language?
Yeah. This I'm completely against this Kadwa kind of thing. I see language as a tool, and we use the best tool that we can to get something done. I think we should not politicize language, and we've been doing that too long. So this is a language I'm most comfortable with. I've studied, I've read it, I grew up in Colombo, so I use the language, but I don't want, and I do think this language is accessible. If I can learn it, anybody else can learn it as well. But we have not had teachers, that's why the rural youth don't speak the language. My father, is called Mahatma. He comes from a little village close to Bingiria. Nobody in that family speaks English, right? But they sent him to Another school and to Another college, and he was like a far better bilingual than I was. His English is better than mine. And he said all my classmates were sons of farmers. So on this island we need English, we need certain contact, and we can't reduce ourselves just to one language. Language is a connection to the world, I mean, if you look at India, they speak about 4-5 languages every single person. It's not detrimental. The human mind can fathom it, can understand it, And so because of that, I don't like the idea of criticizing language. I write with the only language I'm best at, and that is English. So it's not a critical statement, that's all I know. If I can write in Chinese, I would write, but I won't. Okay? And I think it is not right to criticize language. We should use language like I'm using this tumbler. I mean, why am I not drinking from a coal cutter? You know what I mean? This is also a white man's thing, I should have a coal cutter and drink water out of this or something. I should be sitting on the ground. So everything we do is from that thing. But we can't undo history. So let's use the good things. Let's use them as instruments to make things easier. Okay?
Thank you.
I want to know, in what sense have you used the Sufis, like Baba, his character?
You can also introduce yourself. That will help.
She was ordered, and that's what I want to know, his character, Baba, what kind of equality they see in their views?
I can't answer that question. You could read my book for that. I can't. You just can't answer that question. Because when I went around to people asking what a Baba was, I came out as dumber as before. That is not something you can explain with words. You have to feel it. I don't have a single word to tell you what a Baba is. I can't. I'm sorry.
I know about that. Baba is a Sufist, that way. But is it you? Are you portraying him to give some sense of value to kind of his religion or kind of his ideology?
It's just a love in his heart. It's love. It's love for God.
For knowledge.
Not knowledge, love. Knowledge and love are two different things. I'm talking about love. He's the epitome of love in my book. So I'm using him as somebody who expresses love. And that's the only word I can say to describe the Baba. I don't want to say anything else. You want to say something about that?
Just at this strategic point, people who would like to know about the Baba more, who would like to purchase the book, there are a few copies still left. I think we have a special price for this event, 2,000 rupees.
It's not like 2,600. I got the last 2 copies.
So this is the other price. We brought it down. So just a strategic interjection.
I have 3 copies there and 1 more copy here, which I'll remove the paste. It's not used, but I didn't have nothing. I don't have any of my books sometimes,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, more questions?
From what I gather, you have been very brave to talk about Buddhism in a critical way in your books. So for me, someone who does not have that kind of courage, I would like to know how you take that step forward when you write, what to write and what to not.
That is just the arrogance of the majority race. That's what I have. So I use my name. It's a Wijesinghe. Nobody can do anything to me. I mean, looking at my lawyer on Muslim, you can't do that in this country, and that is a tragedy because you have the same right that I do. But our system has not given you that right, and because of my name, my pedigree, I am born with those guts. That's all. It's sad, and that is what I'm trying to change in my books. Even Single is all about the beauty of pluralism on this island. And but we have never had any politician who has supported that. Rather, they have created an ethnic divide. We don't have an ethnic divide. We have created it. And of course, and I really must say, all these the foreign involvement in these countries. They talk a lot about these things, but they like this ethnic question. I mean, recently I was interviewed by some German radio, And it was all about, wanting to know about the ethnic divide. I said, we don't have an ethnic divide. It was created. I said, we grew up together, we ate together, we worship the same gods together, Okay, yes, maybe a man in Pulyapita doesn't know much about a person in the East Coast kind of thing, And maybe, yes, there are, certain, like today, when I was in the hotel, and this young man, he's from, where is he from? He's born in Hackney, but he has been living in Batticaloa. And he doesn't feel comfortable in Batticaloa because he's a Batticaloa people does not, let's say, are not so friendly with, people who come from that region. So, there are little things like that, but we can still overcome them if we try, And I mean, that is what I try to write about this thing of pluralism, because we are an island. We are an island, and I don't think this is there's a thing called a single this island. It's a location where many streams of people have come and they have settled down. My grandmother, she bought something there in 1800s, she died in 89. Her first name was, first she had like a Donna Carolina or something like that, then she changed to Subanavati. But originally her name had a Peruma. It was a Peruma. So here I'm, obviously single and Buddhist, but this Peruma is obviously like a Vaishnava or a Hindu connection. So so this Buddhism has given us a new sense of identity, but we have all been maybe one originally. Maybe if we do a DNA test, we all have having blood on whatever it is. But politics has divided us, and we have unfortunately, especially since 1977, since the birth of the open economy, since JR's so-called Dharmisha society, and since the infiltration into our living rooms with the television, they have divided us. And for that, that was JR's strategy. Because it was, I lived in a time before that, it was not like this. Yes, we didn't have rice, we had manioc. Yes, we had the ration card system. But it was not as rampant as it is now. So that television set in the living room, selling their, like Lanka, selling their rot there, has fundamentally indoctrinated the people. That, when I was growing up, every time it was considered a kotia, what I mean? I said, but fortunately, I have a father who, was always against it, so he gave us ideas. And I still remember one question that my father asked me in the middle of the war. He said, why is it that we are fighting with the Tamils? He said, my best friends are Tamils, my father said. So I told my father, I said, listen, you don't even understand. I don't know a single Tamil, I said. I went to school in these colleges. We have a Tamil medium, we have a Sinhala medium. We have nothing to do with each other. So he didn't know that. So he went to school, they all went to school together kind of thing, or to work and things like that. So like I said, my courage is the arrogance of the majority race, that's all. I mean, and it's not the time for you can't have that courage that I do, even if you want to, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say that.
Thank you.
So probably we can wind up the formalities, perhaps. I think some of us will still stay around a bit. We can engage in more conversation, also partake in a little bit of atelier hospitality. I don't know how fast and furious it will be. There are only two gentlemen running the show today. But let me take this opportunity to thank, on behalf of the people organizing this conversation, Primrose Road Poetry, to Atelier for their generosity giving us this location, and also people joining us today, despite the holy atmosphere in and around Kandy. And no potholes, but a little bit of monsoons, right? So thank you very much for joining. Stay around, mingle with the people, grab a cup of coffee. For people who are interested in, like, Moths to a Flame, grab a copy as well. Thank you, Manuka.